And welcome to the Rotary Club of Bearden. I am Kelly Vidito, this year's president, and happy to be here with you. Thank you to all the members, visitors, and guests that are in the room. Our theme for this year's Rotary is Create Hope in the World. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about different ways we might be able to do that in our community, in addition to what we're already doing. Janice Mitchell, would you lead us in song, please?
I sure will. Coming from the hinterlands over here in the corner. It looks like we don't have many people here, but we really do, so I expect you to sing in your biggest voice. And we're going to sing My Country 'Tis of Thee, one that you know very, very well, so just sing out. Here's your pitch. My country, baby. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's bride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. You filled up 2 rooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Our pledge will be by Monty Miller.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our invocation by Mike Bailey.
Forgivable. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you with arms open, hearts open. We ask you to fill us with your spirit. We ask you to bless every household here. Help us with our problems, whether they're personal or relationship or money problems, the 3 kind of problems that categorize most. We thank you, God, for the leadership in this room, the people that serve others. We ask that we give you all the due that for any good done. We ask you, Lord, these things you bless this food. Bless our speaker, and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. And now, Todd Wolf for visitors and guests.
It's all right. I am going to put my glasses on. Looks like we have 2 guests. Dick Hinton has John Sheridan.
I do. Any of you know John? I don't know if I've ever really given him a proper introduction, so let me take a shot at that. One of the reasons John is here today is he's been active in Boy Scouts all his life practically. He's also been involved in the leadership of Boy Scouts locally and nationally for decades. He worked for the University of Tennessee for years, and then University of Tennessee Medical Center. He retired a few years ago, and now he's a semi-professional golf player. Anyway, join me. Oh, he's also my brother-in-law. So join me in welcoming John.
And Mike Bailey has a guest.
My guest is number 2 daughter, number 1 on my scorecard today. President number 1. That's Mackenzie Bailey Kratowski now, married a few years, and she just brought me Vincent, my 3rd grandson. So she's really 13, 14 weeks old.
Oh.
And so Mackenzie is a commercial personalized agent at Bailey Insurance Service. She's through traveling the world. It took her about 10 years out of college to finish traveling the world, and so she's living in Roane County on 25 acres with a log cabin, a helicopter pilot, and a new baby.
Wow. And we have 1 guest, well, 1 makeup, David Williams.
Sorry, it's in the wrong area. It should be a visiting rotary.
Okay, visitor return. That's what I thought. David Williams?
Right here.
He's actually our
Okay.
speaker.
I'll let somebody else introduce you then, David. I'll do you more justice by not happening. So with that, we'd like to thank our guests and visitors. Welcome to the Rotary Club.
Thank you very much. All right, a few announcements and service updates. Janice, would you update us on mobile meals,
I
please?
sure will. As you well know, it's about 98 degrees out there, and in some of the apartments where we deliver meals, they're on blood thinners. So it means it's a little bit warmer in the apartment. But if you would like to join this crew that delivers on Fridays, I would love to have you. If you filled out a form a long time ago and really never committed to delivering, I still have that form. And if you're interested in delivering, just let me know. and I'll be happy to give you a Friday. Thank you.
And then a little shameless plug for mobile meals. If you have not delivered mobile meals ever, try it one time. It's amazing to interact with those people in that capacity. The Bearden Business Award that we're looking to award one business per quarter for, we're now accepting nominations through tomorrow, but we're actually going to extend that by 1 week. So if you have a business in mind that's a Bearden local to the Bearden area, and you'd like to nominate them for the business of the quarter, there are forms on your desk, as well as I emailed that out earlier last week. Pack the Park is Tuesday, August 15th at Smoky Stadium. We will be playing the Rocket City Trash Pandas. So I don't know what that is, but we're playing. I know, I was very amused by that name. Tickets are $14. 6 of that are included in that 14. You're going to be given at the game a $6 voucher toward food and drink. If you don't attend the night of the 15th, you can still use the ticket, but the food and drink voucher will not be valid. And then out of that money, we end up being able to give $19.50 through a doubling from the Bill Gates Foundation to Polio Plus. So it's a huge thing. The way to get me to stop talking about Pack the Park is for everyone in this room to have bought tickets, or everyone on our membership. So once Rosa tells me we're 100% bought, we'll stop. I sent out an email this week earlier about lunch menu suggestions. Cody actually asked me for suggestions from the club, so I thought that was huge. I think he does an amazing job, but he wants to do an even better job and give us what we want more regularly. So if you haven't responded to that email and you'd like to do that, I gave him the first list today, and it was a great list, and he was very excited by it. So take this opportunity to make recommendations about what you'd like to have. An update on Tom Daughtry, and I only share this because Patty said I can. He is coming home today. So he is discharged and released back to his house today to hopefully continue to get stronger. Lorna, would you like to give us a fundraising update?
Yes, I put Save the Days flyer on several of the tables. We actually have more than one fundraiser this year, so look at those dates. I do plan ahead, so I've been working on this for quite a bit. For the first month of the raffle, though, the smaller fundraiser, we're honoring our members with free gifts. And then also, when I retired, people bought me tea stuff, and I have like stress balls. If you want to get that for free, that's on my free stuff. The stuff that I bring in, I got from Chewy. I got the gin in honor of Steve. And we have some really good hiking socks. They're about $30 each. Llama, alpaca. So it's an outdoor theme this week, except for the gin.
I guess you could drink it outside.
I guess.
All right, thank you. And any other announcements before we do the last thing and before our speaker comes up? Any other announcements anybody needs to make? Good. Last but not least, I messed up last week already. 1 week into my presidency and I messed up. Tony Power's birthday was actually yesterday, so I should have recognized it last week preemptively, and I apologize for missing that. We're going to sing to you anyway. And Doug Coase, our current public image chair, has a birthday on the 19th. So Janice, take it away.
Here we go. No, you're all singing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tony and Doug. Happy birthday to you.
And I believe Bruce Dinkley will be introducing our speaker.
Scouting, so to explain what a trash panda is, in scouting we have patrols, it's raccoon patrol, but a lot of them prefer to be trash pandas. So if you wonder, envision it in your head what a trash panda is, it's a raccoon. So when I joined here in 2002, one of the reasons I did was the strong connection this club had with scouting. And I could sit in the room and look around and see all the folks that are involved. Look over and see Gene Baird, one of the most successful scouting fundraisers we've ever had here in West Knoxville. He served on our board for many years. Ron Justice was on our board, involved with the audit committee and golfing. Paul Fowler was involved in golfing. There's another golfer there, Mike Bailey, used to
hang out with our golf teams. Drew McDonald got us hoses for camp. Steve Chancey took care of our air conditioning over in our office. Monty Miller was one of our volunteer commissioners for several years. I don't know how many years he was the commissioner. John Hines actually invited me to join here. We've been the Bible Scout for many years. John still helps us out. Jim Burns helped me with years for popcorn, warehousing our popcorn. We took up his parking lot as a warehouse for several months, and that was big. Of course, everyone knows Sam and his scouting background, but we can't talk about it. But
Keep your lips shut.
okay. So he's one of 4 Eagle Scout brothers. So Bruce Cliff always helped us with our recognitions each year, and of course we have Jim Coffin and Jerry Eastman, our Eagle Scouts from a few years ago that still quietly helps scouting too as well. And our guest, John Sheridan, he was one of the first volunteers I ever met moving to Knoxville in 1987. He got involved with the Eagle Scout Banquet. He was the chairman that year. So strong connection here, and I'm sure I've left someone out that has used their talents and resources for their scouting. But I'm happy today to introduce our guest, David Williams. Is a Scout Executive and CEO for the Great Smoky Mountain Council, and he began that journey on March 1st, 2015. He's the 10th Scout Executive for our council in its 113-year history. He is a visiting Rotarian today as well. He's a member of the Rotary Club of Knoxville. It's not the downtown club. Leadership class of 2018, leadership East Tennessee class of 2021. He's had a 26-year career with the BSA, beginning with Middle Tennessee Council out of Nashville. From there, he was able to move to Dallas as a Deputy Scout Executive and CEO of the Circle 10 Council in Dallas, which is in the top 2 or 3 councils in America. He's a veteran of the United States Army, member of the American Legion. He's also an Eagle Scout and enjoys spending time outdoors in a variety of activities, including geocaching. His family is a scouting family. So his wife, Amy, and David have been married for 25 years. Their 2 children, Grace, which has received the Venturing Summit Award, and it's a recipient of the Venturing Summit Award and past Council Venturing and Sea Scout Officer Association President. And their son, Luke, who just recently passed his Eagle Scout Board of Review, is an Eagle Scout and is also serving as the current Pellissippi Board of the Arrow Lodge Chief. So it's a pleasure to introduce my friend David Williams.
Thanks, Bruce. What a fun club. You're the first club I've been to of my entire career that I've had the opportunity to speak to any civic club that has a pitch fight. That's pretty cool. Knoxville Club sings occasionally, but at some point we kind of got off of that kick, and it comes back occasionally. The only thing that's not in the bio that I would say about my son, anybody know what the Hornaday Award is out of the Scouters in the room? Hornaday was the executive director of the New York City Zoo back in its heyday early on, and the BSA Distinguished Conservation Service Award, which means you have to do multiple projects that are conservation oriented that are similar to an Eagle project. He just did that. So all of the badges and all the bling drive a lot of kids, young people, and he's certainly one of them. So thanks, Bruce, for the introduction. I've been to the club once, I believe, in my 8 years. Typically on Friday afternoons, or Fridays, we are in an all-day staff meeting, trying to make sure we're driving, scouting the way we should. So I did grow up in Memphis. I'm one of 5 children. My mother had the good sense, what I like to say is, she put me in scouting in 3rd grade, and every time I tried to quit, it was, well, we just bought the uniform, we just paid for summer camp, we just bought a sleeping bag. She would never let me quit. And I know for me, and maybe my younger brother, if it wasn't for her, neither of us would probably be Eagle Scouts. After I graduated high school, I joined the Army and then I came back home to go to Memphis State, and then by the time I left school, it was the University of Memphis. And I saw the pharmacist on your name tag, Roy, and when I left the Army, that's what I thought I wanted to be. But first semester of chemistry, biology, and algebra, I said, they told me that summer between the Army and college that when I got a degree, I could come work for the Boy Scouts. So second semester of college, I decided I wanted to be a Boy Scout the rest of my life. So it's been great, but I graduated on Sunday and had to be in Dixon, Tennessee on a Tuesday with no place to live. They didn't really care. I slept on somebody's couch for 3 weeks while I tried to find a house to rent in Dixon for my wife to be that would join me in December. So it has been a whirlwind. John Sheridan was actually on the selection committee when the Scout Executive's position comes vacant. They board approves a selection committee and goes through that process. When we got here through that process, it was kind of the same thing. I showed up a couple of days early to go to work to make sure that I could be here and be on the ground. A lot of things during that time have changed in the last 8 to 10 years. But if you go back to the comment about this committee selection process, I told them there was nothing they could throw at me. In my time in Nashville, which is a very large Boy Scout council, my time in Dallas at that council, there was nothing they could throw at me that I hadn't seen. And then God said, watch this. He threw a global pandemic at us, and he threw the National Boy Scout bankruptcy at me, and all of us. And I told this to a friend in Atlanta in May, and he goes, so you're the problem? So we'll talk a little more about that in a minute. We are a very active scouting family. I not only serve as the scout executive for the council, but venturing, which we'll talk about in a moment, Amy and I both lead that unit for our kids. And so if we're not doing something for the job, we're doing something as a volunteer. And after 6 years of being a crew advisor, Amy's trying to figure out how we can start to reclaim some of our weekends since our children are 18 and 21 now. So the council is the Great Smoky Mountain Council. I left a packet, 4 or 5 copies of the packet at the table. The back of the first page will show you the footprint of our council, the 21 counties we serve in the current district structure. Pre-COVID, we served about 10,000 young people annually in those 21 counties, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 scouting units, packs, troops, crews. So you kind of see that footprint that we serve. We brand everything from a PR standpoint as eastnscouts.org. And that's because Bradley and the Chattanooga area, down into the Ocoee, are part of the Cherokee Area Council. And then once you get into Greenville, going towards the Tri-Cities, that becomes Sequoia Council. So our 21 counties, again, pre-COVID, were 10,000. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So we recruit roughly 3,500 to 4,000 young people every fall. About 65% of them stay. So we retain. Some of those families are excited. They did Cub Scouts. They did that in the 4th grade or the 3rd grade, and they're moving on to the next thing as they're trying out all kinds of youth activities. Mr. Haslam told me at one point that everybody was a scout in his day and age. You did basketball, football, and scouts, and that was it, right? I mean, that's what you kind of did. Today you can play, I'm sure you all know it, you've had children, daughters, sons that have played travel baseball, travel volleyball. You can sink your entire life into one sport. So there's a lot of competition for young people's time today. So we also go through a process. I heard somebody was a commissioner at some point. You understand our annual renewal of the membership cycle. So COVID hit in March. A lot of our units are wrapping up their annual process to recharter in March, and some of them just said, we're out. We don't know what the world's going to come to. So we're not even renewing, which would carry into the fall through the end of the year. Then come into school night season where we talk to every one of the kids in public school for sure, because there is a state law today that says if you're a U.S. Title Code, I'm going to say 41, 42, basically a patriotic organization that has a youth program, we're guaranteed 10 minutes annually to talk to the youth in schools. So that's basically us, the Girl Scouts of the United States, maybe the Young Marines, and there's one other obscure one. So basically it benefits scouting the most. So that fall, instead of recruiting 3,500 to 4,000 and we had no school access, we recruited 100 kids. So that cycle, you saw nationally across the 250 Boy Scout councils, membership dropped in half that year. So we went from 10,000 to about 4,600 in 2020. It just dropped through the floor. The biggest piece of that, however, is really school access through a global pandemic. You could certainly say, and we don't know the impact of it, the noise in the media about the BSA's financial restructuring and the difficulties we were going through had to play some impact on it, but you can't quantify it. So if you look at the front page in this packet, it says it's our pride points. That second one says scouting grows to positively impact more youth and families. So at the end of 22, we had grown about 1,000 to almost just a little over 5,900, which was an 8% increase over 21. The difference between 21 and 22 was, what was it, John, like 20%? It was something crazy. We were really lucky in the state of Tennessee that we didn't have COVID in 21 because we got back into schools. Most of the communities across the country, you still couldn't get into schools that fall. So we're one of the handful of councils that grew in 21 and 22 and going back in the right direction. And at the end of second quarter for this year, we're on track. We had growth. So we're going in the right direction. So I'd say, so I asked Bruce what to say. So John, don't think I'm just like going off half-cocked talking about all the horrible things. I asked Bruce, you know, what should I say? It's why I wore knee socks today, right? I don't wear knee socks often, but those of you who grew up in scouting, you had knee socks, so I made sure I wore them today. But things have been challenging. It's just, there's no doubt about it. But we also, if you're not in scouting or you're not a legacy family, you pretty much think scouting is a white middle class kind of club, right? The camps, which is the furthest from the truth. It's not a camping or program. It is a youth leadership, citizenship, character, duty to God and country program. We produce young men and young women now to be leaders of our country. We use the outdoors as the hook, right? So we go into school and say, hey, you want to go play with guns, knives, fire, go camping, playing in the dirt, right? So you can shoot BB guns and bows and arrows, and we'll teach you how to use a knife, and we're going to go camping. And it's the greatest bait and switch there is. Because at the end of the day, hopefully you're going to come out like the Cary boys, right? Community leaders, although I'm not supposed to talk about it, I guess. Community leaders, great people that are going to sit in these chairs in the future, right? That's what we're doing. So with that, we really have to focus on making sure that any kid, young person, in our 21 counties that wants to be in scouting gets to. Period, end of sentence, right? Like finances is not going to stand in the way. We're going to make sure it happens. We have concentrated in inner city Knoxville for a long time. You know, I think Anthony tells you he started with 500 maybe, and now it's into the 2000s. So we've concerted our efforts. I think we have a bigger opportunity than just inner city Knoxville or Alcoa through rural Appalachia to serve at-risk young people, right? There are a lot of young people there that we could do great things for. So we actually hire Cub Masters. We call them program specialists. So you're a part-time seasonal employee, and Beaumont Magnet has a program specialist that we pay to go in there every week to be the Cub Master, right? So, In some communities, we're never going to have a traditional scouting model where the parents are the volunteers. And it's great to think, oh, we can go in and we can recruit parents and we'll train them and get them comfortable and they'll take it. But if you don't have a long-term, sustainable, we're going to do this as long as it takes, because average Cub Scout parent maybe spends 3 years with their son or daughter in Cub Scouts, even though it's a 6-year program now. Did you know that, Bart? You can get your master's degree faster than you can get your Arrow of Light. We now, you know, at my time, you joined in 3rd grade, then we added 2nd, now we've added 1st, and finally we've added kindergartners. Because what we saw was every other program started in kindergarten, right? So you were losing young people because you weren't getting to them early enough. But take a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old and put them in the same Cub Scout program, one of them needs to go to bed at like 6, 7 o'clock, right? It's just totally different. So we've adjusted to it. But about 8% of our scouts today in the post-COVID, and it was about 12% pre-COVID, get some type of financial assistance, whether it's the joining fee, the uniform, the book, or camping fees. Another piece to share with you on that is that our 21 counties is about 12% diverse, 88% Caucasian. Our membership tends to be between 16 and 17%. So we actually outpace the community. And I think that's a huge point to make. So I'm going to hit real quick the other 4 pages in here. I'm sure a lot of you understand what Cub Scouting is, right? It's K through 5. If you look at the bottom in that chart, it says how it's going to work. In 2018, we decided nationally, and we had been talking for decades about how do you serve both boys and girls. So in 2018, the national organization made Cub Scouts available to all young people. I don't know about your time, but definitely during my time, we always had sisters in the corner, right, hanging out while their brother's at the meeting. They may be doing the activities, they may be doing everything, but they couldn't wear the uniform or earn the patches. So in an effort to meet today's families where they are, right, you can't take sons and daughters to 2 different places on the same day and time to scouting programs. And while we had tried throughout the time to partner with Girl Scouts of the United States of America, that really only worked on a local level, maybe at the church kind of worked together. It never worked nationally. So they made this big change, and you can either have, you can either have an all-boy pack, you can have an all-girl pack, you can have what we call family packs, which at the time were separated for boys and girl dens. At this age, it's not that big of an issue to have dual gender boys and girls in the same thing. So since 18, now 5 years later, they have allowed what we're calling family dens. But it all depends on the Cub Pack, what they want to do and what their charter organization wants to do. So you have a kind of a mix. At 5th grade, the last year before they go to scout troops, they go back to being single gender dens. Because if you flip to the next page, in the Scouts BSA program, so a lot of people want to say, I heard y'all changed your name, you're not the Boy Scouts of America anymore. We're still the Boy Scouts of America. We have 6 distinctive programs. Our Boy Scout troops are now called Scouts BSA troops. Most people will say, I'm going to Scouts, where's my Scout shirt, where's my Scout book? They never said, where's my Boy Scout handbook, right? So it's part of our kind of vernacular. At this age group, it is completely single gender. We're not having boy and girl patrols, camping together, tenting together. That is definitely Europe though, right? Scouting is in 170 different countries, and they have different norms than we do. But part of this, having a single gender troop, is boys need a place to be stupid. Girls need a place to be stupid, right? They burp and expel from other areas of their bodies. They need the opportunity to not look over their shoulder and see what anybody else is thinking, right? There is nothing intrinsically special about a scout troop that said a girl couldn't do it, right? What I will tell you is the girls will outpace the boys and take over because boys are lazy, right? Oh, it's like, oh, you want to do it? Great, I'll sit back and let you do it, right? So part of that, the required model is you have to have, so Cokesbury Methodist is where my son and daughter are in scouting. They have a male troop, they have a female troop, they're completely separated. I don't know that they do much of anything together. Troop 42 in Oak Ridge follows this linked model troop, so they still have a boy troop and a girl troop, but they share assets, they share committee, it works well for them. But at the end of the day, when the national organization was looking at bringing girls into scouting, it was always predicated with doing no harm to the boys that we served. A lot of countries, Ireland specifically, like their membership is heavily female today. At the World Jamboree for the centennial of the World Organization, all of the leadership roles were held by females, right? And so we watched other countries go through this process and tried to make sure that we didn't create any of the same mistakes that they did. I will tell you now, 4 years into the scout troop model, it's going pretty well. I think if you look at the diversity bullet, which is the 4th bullet on the front page, almost 30% of the youth that we serve today in Boy Scouts of America and this council are now female. Girl Scouts of the United States is a great program. The executive director, so my counterpart is Lynn Fugit. We're in Rotary together, we sit together, we talk. She is awesome. She's the mom of 2 Eagle Scouts. Her husband Scott was a Cub Master back in the day. She was very gracious to us as we started this process, and it did not go that well across the country. Really, John, if it wasn't for Buddy, I don't know what it would have gone to, because when Lynn got the job, Buddy put us together and said, y'all need to get to know each other. So we decided locally between the 2 of us, if anybody was going to get nasty about it, we'd let the national organizations do that, and it's worked out very well. The title of Scout BSA actually has history. If you were in Scouts in the 70s, we took boy out of Boy Scouts of America and tried to call it Scouts of the US, Scouting USA. Boy is a very offensive, racive term in some communities. So I grew up in Memphis. If you call a black male boy, it's fighting words, right? So we were trying to be more approachable to other groups of people. And so at that time it was called Scout BSA Troops. So there was some history to it. The other 4 programs that most people don't know we have are Venturing, Sea Scouts, and Explorers, are all 14 to 20. They have been co-ed since the 70s. So we've had a long history, decades of serving young women. But I assume Venturing is only 25 years old. Back in the day it was called Exploring, and it was the green shirts and it was the older guys. Exploring somewhere in that time frame started picking up a lot of career education, worksite based hands-on career programs, and so in '98 they split them. So Exploring is still our worksite based career program. So Knoxville Police Department, Knoxville Fire Department, other organizations run these career programs for young men and women, and KPD actually, hand selects them. They have to keep grades. They go through a summer academy. By the time they go through high school at 18, they can become what I believe is a cadet, and then they go through they're 21 and they go to the academy. So KPD sees it as a pipeline for officers in the future, and we can do that with any career interest you want. Out of the 16 Department of Education career clusters, we can have them all. It is a great program as a parent to put your kid in a veterinarian exploring post who thinks they want to be a vet because they have animals, but they don't know it's a small business. And by the way, when you get to go into surgery to see the cat spayed or neutered, oh, I can't handle that, I don't like blood. That's great, you didn't waste 2 years of college trying to figure that out on my dime. So it is a great program. Venturing and Sea Scouting are water scouts and dirt scouts, as they like to call each other. They're just more hyper-focused outdoor activities. Sea Scouts has been around since 1912. It is the second oldest program of the Boy Scouts, and it is as old as the Eagle Badge. So we actually have a resurgence of those programs going on right now. So it's pretty great to see. Before girls could be in scout troops, it was the way to get the sisters into a venturing crew so they could go to Sea Base, they could go to Philmont, they could do all the cool high adventure stuff. I can tell you with the girls now being in scout troops, that program is still needed because when you get to 16, 17, 18, you don't want to hang out with the 11-year-old, right? So they still want what scouting has to offer. They want to be hanging out with their friends, and it's a great thing to do. The last program has been around, it's about 10 years, Bruce. It actually started here. If you flip to the very back of this, you'll see STEM Scouts. So we had 2 Oak Ridge PhDs that were venturing leaders, and they knew that there were kids who wanted to do things like water ecology and bridge design, and they're going to go canoeing and they're going to do that, and then they wouldn't show up. So they switched the message to say, we're going to do the STEM-based stuff. And they'd say, well, how are we getting there? Don't worry about it. So we realized there's this generation of young people that don't want to play with BB guns and bows and arrows, but they want to build robots and blow stuff up. So it is nothing more than a scout troop, but with a STEM hook instead of an outdoor hook. And it was started here. It became a national program. In the BSA's challenges, they've sunset the program nationally, but we've kept it. So we serve somewhere in the 300 to 400 range every fall of kids who want to be in STEM programming instead of being in Cub programming. And it is opening up more and more doors to us. So it's awesome. You can see those last 4 bullets. I think they're important. We've spent about $10 million on our 2 camps in the last, 10 years, John? There's a brand new dining hall at Camp Buck Tom's called the Pat and Joe Johnson Dining Hall that just opened last August. So it expands for the future and meets workplace needs because the current kitchen was a disaster. In today's world, it was probably fine 25 years ago when we built it. But we continue to spend time in those programs. So let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, the bankruptcy issue. So the Boy Scouts of America nationally has tried their best to equitably compensate survivors of childhood abuse. And as that continued to become a more seen issue from the history of the organization, the national organization had depleted about $400 million in cash trying to handle that situation, and it was just getting worse. And so, unfortunately, there are people who, both men and women, but primarily males, that took advantage of young people in scouting programs because they're sick individuals and they came to where the opportunity was. In the late 80s, we started into our youth protection journey. We instituted rules like you can't be one-on-one anywhere with a child. That was new. So I got called at 22 as a COPE director at summer camp, and a troop was going to the Ocoee and going hiking on the AT, and they couldn't go if they didn't have a second adult, and the adult had to have back surgery. So I got to go on a free trip, and I didn't realize what it was at that point, but we were starting to create barriers to abuse in our programs. Today we're the model. I would tell you today my children were safer, I believe, in scouting than they were in our own church, right? I mean, since we've been married 25 years, I've never taken any of the kids' friends home over a sleepover without somebody else being in the car. I'm just not going to put myself at risk. But not only does it safeguard the children, it does also safeguard the adults to have a second person. Today, it's continue down that road to you can't email a young person, you can't have a phone conversation, you can't message them, text them without somebody else being involved. So as my son was under 17, every week he's on the phone with his advisor and one of the parents have to be on the call to make sure that nothing's going on, right? So we've created serious barriers to abuse. You can't even, outside of the Cub Scout level, you can't even sleep in the same tent with your child anymore. And a lot of parents are like, well, why is that? Right? I can sleep in my own tent with my own child, and not in our program you can't, because we honestly don't know if you're the stepdad, the live-in boyfriend, or the father, and we're not going to put you in a space closed where you can do something to a child. It's just, unfortunately, the world we live in today. And back in the time when these things were happening, you know, nobody talked about it the way we do today, right? You'd be driven to the county line and say, don't come back, right? So in the 30s, we started keeping track of them. So if you went from Knoxville to Memphis or Little Rock, Arkansas and tried to sign up, we had a system in place that kept you from doing that. So since we have decades worth of data, we were easy, the first one to come into target. The mass tort attorneys got involved, and you started seeing the ads on TV. You can really get into, well, gee, out of the 82,000 claims, only half of them were true, right? You can say, well, there's some false in there, but what acceptable number is that, right? Is if it was just 10,000 of 82,000, is that acceptable? No. So unfortunately, we've gone through this process to try to make every survivor be equitably compensated while keeping the program. It is one of the safest places you can have a child today because of the barriers to abuse we have. But it's a life-changing program. You know, I came from a lower income blue collar family that put me here to where I am today, right? If it had not been for scouting and the scoutmaster that served as my adult male role model, I don't know where I'd be, right? I mean, so Wes Stour says, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So trying to get through that process. We've come out of the bankruptcy. One thing to know is it's the national organization, not the local council, that filed for the bankruptcy, but we have protection and channeling injunctions where we paid a certain amount of money into the trust for the U.S. trustee to allocate the cash out. So what that did to us, and we have 30 seconds left, sorry. What it did to us is we sold Camp Pellissippi to John Hildreth, who's Hildreth Insurance. It's now called Camp Pellissippi at the Hildreth Family Preserve. He honestly bought it to keep it for us. So he put it in a private LLC. He rented it back to us for $1 a year. His heirs can't change the rental rate for up to 50 years. And if they ever want to get rid of it once John and Haverly are gone, it comes back to us as a right of first refusal at exactly what he paid for it, no adjustment for inflation for his heirs. So he really did it to save the camp. So we've really come out of it financially. It's difficult, but that's what it's meant to be. So I hope I answered that on the nose. I will tell you, there are 15,000 young people going to Beckley, West Virginia for the National Scout Jamboree this weekend. Scouting is alive and well, and we're on the right trajectory, and I'm grateful for what y'all have done. And the last thing I'll say is Rotary started the same time Scouting did, and Paul Harris and James E. West, our first Chief Scout Executive, traveled the country starting Rotary clubs and scouting programs. So the four-way test and the Scout Oath and Law are kind of in sync, right? I mean, we're organizations that have had an incredibly long history, and we're grateful for what you do. I will stay and talk to anybody to answer questions.
We may have a few questions. Does anybody have a good question?
Look, they'll start walking out at 1 o'clock downtown. I already asked this table if this was the getaway table. So I'll stay as long as you want, but I'll talk as long as you
Maybe 3 or 4
let me.
questions, if anybody has any.
Yes.
Fundraising.
Yeah.
County. This room's full of people. In fact, some that are dead now. My uncle Ed Bailey was with BFI, and Tom Wells was the director, and they did the 19th hole. We had and Todd's former owner of the Todd Schaffner. Those guys, David Duggar must know stuff on people. It was like Ms. Baird. He raised a ton of money. Paul Fowler had Sharp, and Sharp got it in. So it got to be the biggest amateur golf tournament on the planet. It was twice a day. I mean, it had 2 times, and it was both Willow Creek and Fox Game. Had Fuzzy Zeller here one year. He's a real hoot. He drinks vodka breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So what do you do locally for fundraising now?
Sure.
And are you a net gainer or giver to the national?
So nationally, we pay a charter fee annually. It's based on salaries, and it's right now about, we probably spend about $60,000 with them. But part of that is IT. So they handle all of our IT services. Our firewalls are through them. And being kind of a franchise model, we're really blessed because when people start asking us questions when they're volunteers, so what's our cybersecurity? Do we have insurance for that kind of stuff? My first response was, I'll go get you the right answer. Sure enough, we have a policy on cybersecurity. So that money that we spend with them is pretty good investment. I'd love for it to be less. They don't give us anything financially. We send them money. When I sign my child up for scouting and pay $100 for the membership fee, it goes straight to them. So anything the parents are paying to register their young people goes straight to the national organization. As far as fundraising goes, this year's annual Friends of Scouting campaign, which is our biggest impact to the budget, is $1.7 million. And we just hit that goal at the end of June for our victory celebration. You should know, however, we budget for a loss rate because some people die in the year, go out of business, right? So, but we turn into bill collectors in November. John, are you still getting your statement? The lights are going out. Could you send some money? No. But we do. So we budget about a 9% pledge loss, and we actually realize about a 4 to 5% because we're so dogmatic. The golf tournament has evolved. It's now a one-day, one-course event. That was the premier golf tournament, but the net revenue to the scouting organization isn't much different than what it is today. We took in a lot of cash, and we spent a lot of cash. So when Jimmy Williams retired, the guy that came in kind of tweaked it and got put up on a gallows in Market Square because he killed it, but it was the right thing to do at the time. He also got rid of the private membership to the country club, right? Because the scout executive during that whole process had us membership, and we don't do that kind of stuff today, right? The world has changed. We still have sporting clays, and we do a couple other things. Okay. Other question? Nope. I'll stay as long as you want.
Thank you very much. We're proud to partner with you in the ways we do as well.
And we know you do, so thank you.
The book. Okay, so he's excited to sign the book. So we donate a book each week to the Pond Gap School
Awesome.
Elementary Library. And we ask our speaker to sign it. So this week's book is Mel Fell. It's about a bird who's outside, so maybe that's the tie-in.
As long as it wasn't a scalp falling out of a tree, we're
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
There's liability.
We have a total
Thank you very much. Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Let's get David in there. They go in the thing. All right. Let's go ahead and do Lorna's Art Pickle raffle. So get your tickets out. We have 3 gifts. We're going left to right. We're starting with Steve's gin that he's not allowed to win. I don't know. I just follow the rules. All right, so ready? I have got to cover this. I'm sorry. I'll win, and I don't even have a ticket in here. All right, 465199. Gary West. Gary West. Congratulations. Okay, next is a dog goodie bag. It's got all kinds of treats and goodies for dogs. And the winner is 465200. Doug Coates.
Hey Kelly, can I say something real quick? I've got a dog that I need to find a home. It's a Doberman Pinscher, and it's wonderful. It's about 8 months old. I've got to find it a home right.
Do you want me to draw a ticket and see who
Yeah.
wins it? All right, Doberman, here we
Comes
go.
with the bag.
You know anything about the four-way ticket?
Seriously, someone let me know.
Okay. All right, so the last gift are the socks, hiking alpacas. Yeah. All right, and the winner is 465204.
Bingo.
Ed Campbell. All right, congratulations. Be sure and grab your gifts. Thank you to Mackenzie for joining us today, and to Mike for bringing her, and to Dick, thank you for bringing John to be with us today. We hope you'll come back soon and join us. All right. Rotary and Trivia. I have a goodie bag with, nothing breaking. Thank God I didn't opt for the candle this week. It's got a gift card to Chick-fil-A and some candy inside. All right, so first person to raise their hand. What date was Rotary founded? And I need the month, day, year. Month, day, year. What date was Rotary founded? I just knew if Patty was here, she'd know it. All right, so let's back up to date. Does anybody know the month and day?
February 25th.
Say that again.
February 25th.
You are very close. You are very warm.
February 26th.
You're getting a little colder. Rosa. You won. Rosa, February 23rd, which is also my anniversary, 1905. All right, February 23rd, 1905. Congratulations. So Rosa, as the winner, we're going to ask you to lead us in the four-way test. And it's not up. So it's on, girl. You want the microphone?
All right, so first, what is the thing that we say and do?
First.
Is it